Hi everyone, I'm Josh and this is Josh Wright Piano TV. Today I wanted to discuss memorizing for beginners. I'll start off with an email that I received from one of the Pro Practice Lifetime Access members, and she said, do you mind explaining this? But I said I will make a YouTube video about this because I think a lot of people could benefit from this. She said, I saw your videos about memorizing, but it is about music for advanced players who already have all the basic requirements. What do beginners who want to play a piece, what do beginners do who want to play a piece from memory? What do you have to do to acquire this skill? Do you analyze the piece for beginners, or do you try to replay the piece by ear? Do you have the sheet music in mind and call it up? I can understand that you also work in small sections here, but how is the actual memory process achieved? Simply by repetition and observation? Can it be that easy? I think I need instructions on how to do it best. I heard in your videos that you can learn music away from the piano. This probably only applies to advanced users, and it doesn't. You can definitely do it as a beginner too. The past few days have given me an important insight into this. When I try to just look at the keys while playing, I see how the keys, tones, and notes are related. I cannot understand that so well on the sheet. Maybe that's a first step towards memorizing. I know that children who play the piano can also memorize their music. Maybe that's a stupid question. Maybe you can give me some tips on how to start memorizing. I'm really grateful for any help. Thanks for your time and effort, Gabriele. Hopefully I'm saying that right. So I hope that this helps. A lot of the concepts that we've discussed in other memorization videos still apply here. So let's go over some basics. I think that sectioning off the piece, even if you don't know the form, even if you don't know that it's binary form or rounded binary or ternary form or sonata form, if you're in sonata form, where is the exposition, development, and recap? Where are your themes? Where's the transition between theme 1 and theme 2? What keys are each of those themes in? If you know none of that, that's still okay. I do want you to work toward getting that in your memory, but I think a lot of teachers make the mistake of giving the student so much preparatory work before actually playing a note or before memorizing it. You have to be good at theory before you memorize anything, that the student never develops that muscle even in a way that will serve them in the future. For instance, I think when I went to, my grandma had me do quite a bit of theory when I was with her from age 5 to 9, but you've got to remember I wasn't playing that advanced of repertoire at that age. So, I was doing okay. I was doing little miniature sonatinas, but I still didn't really know, hey, this is tonic or dominant. And then I went to my teacher at the university, and I think she spent a few lessons with me on theory, and I was making such great progress with my pieces that I think that she may have assumed that I was good at theory and I understood all of this. I was so bad at theory. So for many years, I neglected it just because I was fulfilling my assignments for my teacher. I was practicing 3 hours a day from age 9.5 all the way to age 16, and then I upped it to 4 hours a day for the most part. I wasn't an 8-hour-a-day practicer, but I still was doing a lot more than the average student, competing, playing in a lot of concerts, and I still didn't really know very much about theory. I think I had an understanding of my key signatures for the most part, so I could perhaps identify a chord here or there, but I didn't ever really get good until 3 weeks of panic before I went to the university. And my beautiful wife, who I later married like 3 or 4 years later, is amazing at theory, and she said, "Oh, I'll just run you through all this." That was a great way to start dating her, is asking her for help with theory. Anyway, I'm digressing. So I learned all of that later, but I want you to keep in mind all of the pieces that I'd played up to the point that I was getting ready for college. I had played the complete Chopin etudes. I'd played Rachmaninoff Concerti. I had played with orchestra. It's not like I just learned the notes. They sounded pretty good for someone that age. Now, it's not the best in the world. I'm not telling you to compare me to someone like Eric Liu, who at 17 beat a bunch of us 27, 28, 29-year-old pianists in the National Chopin competition. That's like the best 17-year-old you're going to find. Okay, so not that level, but still playing at a very high level with very basic theory knowledge. So Gabriele, I hope that what I'm about to share can help. First of all, what you said about tones and noticing patterns on the keyboard is a great way of memorizing. So memorizing black and white key relationships, if you're in an easier key signature, and I believe earlier on in your email you said you would classify yourself as a mid to late beginner. So I'm going to demonstrate from this Clementi sonatina. Something we covered in one of the pro practice videos in depth, but I'm going to do it through a lens of a mid to late beginner trying to memorize this piece and not knowing a whole lot about theory, just knowing some basic concepts, okay? So in a key signature like this, C major, an easier key signature, you could do the same thing with things going up to maybe 1 or 2 flats or 1 or 2 sharps. So G major, D major, or F major, B flat major, okay? You can have the black and white key relationships, in particular the black keys, stick out to you and say, oh, I know that in this measure, in that third beat, I have a flat there, and most of the other keys are white, so I know that the flats are there. Even in extremely complex textures, like I remember I did this a lot in the Samuel Barber Sonata, which is an incredibly difficult piece, in passages that were extremely hard to memorize. And that piece, you can do a fair amount of analysis in that piece, and certainly so far as the form of the piece, you can do it, but analyzing particular chords in a piece that's leaning towards atonality, of course it's still tonal, that wasn't a completely atonal piece, but leaning toward that sometimes isn't that helpful for your brain. It's not like processing chords in Mozart, like F major, F7, B flat. It's not like processing chords that way. So a lot of times I would just look at black and white key relationships, and I would say, okay, this is the chord that goes white, 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 black, or so my black key's on top, or a black key is between 2 white keys. And those visual cues that you're talking about can be very helpful. Similarly, you can do intervallic cues. So if you say, okay, this is the one that has the 4th plus the 5th, that's a really good way to memorize that if you don't know that that's C major. Now, again, you want to be working toward that theoretical understanding. And I'll leave a link in the description below for my kit. It's kit.co/Josh Wright Piano. I have a whole, based on you guys' requests, I have a whole section of theory books that if you want to go from, like, it's like level 1 to level 9. If you want to look up those books and just start working your way through those, just self-study should be fine. It's not that hard to understand. Okay, so as you learn those things, the intervals can be very helpful. So let's say that you're memorizing something really complex, like Rachmaninoff Third Concerto, third movement. If you don't know that's D minor, first of all, you shouldn't be playing Rock 3 if you don't know that's D minor. But let's say, just for the heck of it, that we're going to try to do this, and a different way of memorizing. And maybe if you're an advanced player, this other way of memorizing can help. So you can look at that and you could say, oh, I have a 6th in the right hand, and then I have an octave in the left hand. Okay? And it's a 5th above the bottom note. And maybe you only need to memorize every other note having a strong cue. A lot of teachers are going to have beef with that too. They're going to say, oh, you don't really know the piece. But again, this is for a beginner getting into the stages of memorizing. So let's take a look at this Clementi. We're going to start on C's, okay? That can be a landmark tone. Okay, so let's just play that. Of course, that's a C major chord, but let's say you don't know that's a C major chord. You haven't learned your triads and inversions yet. I just know that I'm going from C down to the G, and maybe I'll have those staccatos. This is another cue that you can use. You can have articulation be a memory cue. So smooth, hop, hop, smooth, hop, hop. So I know the first 2 measures have a textural cue of smooth, hop, hop, smooth, hop, hop. Okay, so I've got 2 beats of smooth, 2 beats of staccato. So two beats legato, 2 beats staccato. Okay, and all right, so I'm going C. Another cue that you could use is something that is not necessarily even as specific as intervals, but just looking at the shape. So I'm coming around. I'm going pivoting around that note. So the shape of the hand can help. Or you could say, okay, I have all of this, and my cue to go to this note is I'm going to surround the two middle notes with an octave above that lowest note, that lowest staccato. I'm just gonna go up an octave to that G. Let's say that you're doing this. And then, oh, is it F or is it A, B, what is it? Nope, you just go an octave above. So you can use basic principles like spatial recognition, intervals, shape of the hand, the direction of the music. Here's where the line descends. Here's a oscillating back and forth figure. Here's another descension. So you start to look at the music like you would a landscape. If you, I remember a kid in middle school loved to draw maps to the extent that he knew all the little cutouts. So if you were doing like Washington State, he knew every little cutout of the coast as he was drawing that map. How does he know that? At some point, he had to process, okay, in here, out here. Oh, here's a rounded edge. Here's a sharp edge. You can look at music in somewhat of a landscape lens as well. So up, down. So you just are kind of drawing that shape in your mind. This is a circular shape that represents kind of a more rounded or mountainous visual cue. And I know this sounds so weird, but that can really help. A lot of times if you know when it changes direction, like we were doing on this scale, 4 notes of descent, 4 notes of turnaround, 4 notes of descent, 4 notes of descent. Well, that's really easy. That's only 4 quick pieces of information. Descent, squiggle, oscillating back and forth, descent, descent. Already, that gives me visual cues rather than thinking, okay, I'm going, this is still C major, maybe, and then I'm going to my dominant here, G major. But just knowing that you're staying in tonic as you do all these passing tones and then you're going to dominant doesn't always give you all the information that you're going to need. For instance, I'm memorizing the Chopin concerto, first movement right now for an upcoming concert. Okay, so we could say F sharp major, but that's not enough information. I need to know that it goes down and back up. And at the bottom that it's spaced out there. So rather than going to A sharp there, like I had A sharps up here, it's spaced out. It skips the A sharp on the lowest one, so that's a piece of information that my brain processes. And that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with analysis. That has more to do with how the music is shaped or what it looks like on the keyboard. So I have these full triads here, and then I have an open octave with a fifth above it. Even if you didn't know that was F sharp major, you still have a pretty good visual painting of what's going on. And this guy, now you guys, I'm putting myself on the spot here. Now that I'm slowing it down and having to explain this, I'm afraid I'm gonna mess this up. Let me open my score here. So as we come down, okay, I just noticed that in each of those 16th figures, it's going down, up, down. Okay, and then I just repeat that same figure there. So I just have to memorize that figure, that pattern one time. And then in this measure, that seems extremely complex, but it really isn't when you break this down. Okay, so that's G sharp with a fourth above the bass or a fifth below the soprano, and then just a passing tone right there to the G sharp. And And then I stay on those same tones going up, and I'm always working linearly going up. So going back to that Clementi, we can see a lot of things with direction. The other thing that I want you to remember is, and again, some people say this is not valid, but it is so valid. Dynamics will help you memorize things faster. Putting an emotion to something can help you remember it better. That's like memorizing a huge sequence of words that make no sense versus memorizing a story. If there is something going on in your mind, like a timeline of sorts that your character is moving through, that helps. So you can say at the beginning, he writes forte, and you're going to say, okay, when it gets quieter, I just do the first little figure again, and then I move up to this one. And you memorize that, and you can say, oh, it's a little sweeter because it's higher. So memorizing via register, so it moves up, and the emotion behind it, oh, it's all of a sudden sweeter. That can help stimulate the memory as well. And then this right here, I would just memorize that as a string of thirds. And even if you don't know that, hey, this is D major going to G major at the end there, by the way, doing 2-part harmony is actually harder to analyze than 4-part harmony. Sometimes, like when we had to analyze like Bach 2-part inventions, those can be somewhat more difficult to, actually they are more difficult to analyze than something like a 4-part chorale because you have the full chord. So I don't even think that you really need to memorize that as, oh, is that an F sharp diminished going to G major, or is it part of D7 going to G major? You don't even need to do that. I would say just strings of thirds stepping down. And you can even memorize by hand position. 4-2-3-1, 4-2-3-1, 4-2-1. That brings up another point, memorizing via the fingering. That pattern, 4-2-3-1, I know that I'm just going to do that 2 times, and then the 3rd time it's truncated at the end there. So I hope all of these tips have been helpful and have weeded out the extreme analysis via the harmony or what they're doing contrapuntally in the piece, and instead thinned it out to look at more basic shapes, look at articulation and texture, look at register on the piano, look at black and white key relationships. All of these things can help to stimulate the memory for a beginner, even if they don't know all of their theory very well. So this can be used even in advanced playing, though. I think all of the things I've said today are still valid and will just add an extra layer of strength to your harmonic analysis. So if you're an advanced player watching this and you don't have students that you need to teach these simpler concepts to, you can still benefit from them. I still use all of these, as you saw in that Chopin. Noticing that, oh, I just have oscillating. Of course, I know that's F sharp major there, but going back and forth like that, notice that I'm changing direction each time can be another stimulation. So anyway, if any of you have any questions, my email is josh@joshwrightpiano.com. I'm going to leave a few links in the description below. The first one is for a free webinar containing 10 of my favorite practice tips to make your practice more efficient and more effective. I use these daily in my own studies as well as in my teaching. I'm going to leave links for 2 of my most popular paid courses if you'd like to check those out. And then the last link I will leave is for that kit that I was referring to that has the theory books in it. It also contains all the gear that I use to record, that I use to conduct Skype lessons, CDs that I like, audio gear, all that type of gear that I use in my profession in case you are looking to teach more online or you just want a little bit of extra inspiration into this world of how would I make videos if I wanted to post some videos of my performances. So again, my email is josh@joshwrightpiano.com. Have a great week. Good luck in your practice sessions.